Hi people, welcome to a VC chat at my place. Now if you're here right now, can you make a comment? Can you just say hi? Hey Al, or a waving hand emoji or a smiley face. Hello, just so that we can connect, just so I know who's here and I can say hi. It's good to have you here and I'll just say hi back. You haven't got to make any other comments or anything. You haven't even got to watch any further. Just be great to know who's dropping in. Yeah, I'm saying hi, come around to my place. And here you are, and I say hi back to you. It's just so that we can keep some community and contact, within this VC. Because I may get 1,000 views, I may get 50 likes, I may get 30 comments, but I don't know who's watching. And if you're out there and you still watch my videos, great, it's good to see you. So just keep it simple, a nice hi, and I'll say hi back. And if you want to comment later on because you've managed to wade through this video and you want to make other comments, fine. But just be good to say hi. Okay, in the spirit of community, Tone Scott just did a video and he's written an article for Goldmine magazine, and he did a video saying, can you please put a link in your next videos? So I'm doing that down below. You can read the article and you can look at his video as well. Get a bit of history about him and what brought him to writing the article, etc. And you'll see lots of pictures of most of your favourite vinyl community members holding up records. Okay, now I'm going to show a few odd records here. This one I think is quite unusual. Pathé's Disc. It's a song that you probably all will know the chorus of, or a couple of melody lines too. You'll know. It's a 1913 record, and yet you'll still have heard this song. I should imagine all of you anyway. It's a long, long way to Tipperary. Stanley Kirkby, 1913. I believe this is a 1913 disc. It's a French disc. It was originally released on Columbia in the UK. It goes to 3 figures. I can't find any other evidence of this online at all. But most of these etched Pathé disc labels were pre-war. And they came in different sizes. I've got a bunch of 8-inch records. This one's more like a 10-inch record. But it does have a really fascinating, important notice here. And I'm going to read some of this. This is just completely different to anything else you'll have heard of with records generally. Pathé's discs do away with the necessity of a needle. They must be used in conjunction with Pathé's special sapphire diaphragm. Ouch. Their discs begin from the centre, and it gives you instructions on placing it as a little ridge here. And you place the needle in the first groove after the ridge, which means it evidently plays outwards. They should be heard at a speed of 90 to 100 revolutions per minute. Have you got a record player that plays 90 to 100 revolutions per minute? And every good disc machine will take their discs. The diaphragm only requires changing. It's a very unusual thing, quite collectible. Quite collectible to the right people. This particular one especially. But of course the market is very, very small. I'm going to keep hold of this because it's just a really interesting artifact. I did try playing it on 78, but it just, you need the proper equipment. It just wasn't really working. And there's the flip. But an interesting and unusual record. And here's a nice design on the Beltona record label. Curiously euphonic is their tagline. It even says it on the label. Now euphonic means something which is pleasing to the ear, especially like in a kind of pleasing music. And it does say curiously euphonic. And in this case, these are both songs like Geordie songs from Newcastle. And yeah, it would be curious if you found that euphonic in any way, shape or form. But these also have interesting things on the back here. Pet Mecky needles, that's all one word, unanimously proclaimed the king, in capital letters, of all steel needles by virtue of their wonderful tone. Then it gives you all sorts of blurb about them, how great they are. Then it also tells you there's a Beltona non-skid mat. You know, they're still selling accessories back in the day, but this is really, really interesting. I love this. For all turntables, the non-skid mat is an essential to every gramophone, as necessary as the needle itself. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, it's as necessary as a needle. How are you going to play it without one? But the non-skid pad, that it's suddenly become, prevents the record slipping under the needle and prevents irritating discords so annoying to the listener. And they're right, aren't they? Those irritating discords. And there's a bit here, you can buy a Beltona record album, the euphonic needle grip and needles, the Beltona Peridolce, the sweetest toned gramophone of all, and more Beltona silver steel needles. But I love that. It prevents irritating discords so annoying to the listener. And let's face it, there are probably quite a number of vinyl community channels that are irritating to the listener. You know, there really are, let's face it. I mean, I'm just joking. But, you know, the wax comes to mind. Oh dear, when I think about Rachel's stream nowadays. Anyway, there's a few shout outs here, visual shout outs. Look, there's one there for Ghana and John at Bit Bop Boom, Ghana at Born Out of Time. There's a bit there for Steve at Psych in the Valleys. That one, Dan at Dots and Loops. Zeke. Hi Zeke, hi Dan. Bit of Nico Malcolm. Hi Nico. This one there for John at 6-inch pianist. Hi John. And even John at Digital Gramophone perhaps. It's a funky number. And Patrick the Vinyl Archivist. And here, reminds me of a lot of UK people, that one. Bit of prog, you know. Kind of prog, anyway. Okay, now then. In the last video, I spoke a little bit about how we listen to music, etc., etc. And I mentioned that Michael Valentini had said Dark Side of the Moon was a record that he enjoys more every time he hears it, even after nearly 50 years. Sherv from Julius Jabbar, he made a comment and saying this record is one he enjoys more every time he hears it. Now, most people couldn't agree that they enjoyed a record more every time they heard it. One or two people did. Sherv was one, and he mentioned this record, and he said every time he hears it, his mind opens up a little bit more. Really interesting, isn't it? Fascinating to know that. It's an original. So it's a really interesting thing. Anyway, I was going to do a challenge because I thought, I mentioned briefly about having 20 records in your collection, and maybe you just have 20 you listen to for a month, and how it would affect you, the way you listen, and how would it affect your enjoyment of those records. Because before we were 21, say, you only had a number of records, you only had a few, or a teenager, you only had a few, and you played them over and over. We've brought it all up before. And you got a lot of enjoyment out of them, and you really got to love those records. Not all of them. Some you just never played because you didn't like them in the first place. Because obviously back in the day you didn't have streaming, you couldn't test it all first. But it just got me thinking, how well do we actually know our records? So I was going to set a challenge with, instead of 20 a month, I thought let's try 5 records over 5 days and set a VC challenge. And so you could have 5 records and say, okay, this is all you can listen to over 5 days, and just see how it affects you. But of course the problem is some people are working and some people can only listen to 1 record a day. You might be retired and then you've got all day long to listen to records, and the 5 records, you might find that easier, but you also might find it exasperating. Think, what a stupid idea all this is anyway. But it just got me wondering, wouldn't it be good to try? And maybe one album as a bonus, a record that you really don't get on with in your collection that you're forced to listen to because you've got those 5 plus that one. But it would be too awkward to set up. So it was an idea. But I got thinking about how well do I actually know the records in my collection? Because when we listen to records, when we listen to music and records we think we know really well, when we're listening to them, we'll listen to certain bits. We'll listen to the vocal in this part of a song. We'll listen to the guitar here. We'll naturally focus and incline our ear to different aspects of it. Not all of it. Sometimes we're kind of just absorbing what's happening, but we're not necessarily concentrating or taking it in. But we will sing along, won't we, to the certain melodies or to a guitar riff, or we'll make some noise, or we'll do an air guitar, we'll do whatever. And we're enjoying aspects of those songs. But I really thought, okay, I've tried to focus myself, instead of listening to the guitar at this point, I'm going to listen to the bass for a change. Even in a record I've known since I was a boy, I thought I really know this record really, really well. It's a fantastic record. Yeah, I love it to death. I've known it all my life. But I challenged myself to listen to it differently and to listen to the bass instead of the guitar at this point, and to listen to the drums instead of the keyboard. And then when you try and do that, you realise the record is completely different. It's like, it becomes new. And I questioned, when I looked around at my records, there's records all over the place here. How many of them did I actually know? Because the way we listen is so kind of selective in a way, and the way we focus only on bits in general that we sort of focus on, and that's it, Or we might just love we play the whole song, we just play it through and just love the rhythm and whatnot. We dance about to it and we enjoy the whole thing, but it's not like we're really absorbing it. And I don't mean this in terms of active listening and really concentrating necessarily to achieve this, but ask yourself, how many records in your collection do you actually know really well? You might even have jazz trio albums. You think, well, that'll be easy because there's only 3 instruments. But you'll find yourself concentrating on Coltrane playing his sax, but you'll miss the bass and the drums potentially. And you'd have to really force yourself, after years of listening and enjoying a record so much, to listen to the bass and the drum. Oh. You may have subconsciously noticed those instruments and whatnot before, but you actually haven't really listened and gone, oh. And then suddenly the record becomes more than it actually ever has been before, because you enjoy a different aspect to it. Anyway, so I ask you, how many records in your collection do you actually know really, really well? It's a challenge. And if you could try the 5 records, 5 days challenge, that would be interesting to hear what happens with that. Anyway, I'm rambling here. A couple of records. Geek facts. Your ears are pricking up. Geek facts, geek facts. Oh, he's showing a 45. That's it, I'm out of it. This is on the Triumph label, as you can see, a very short-lived label, 6061 in the UK. Just a couple of unusual things about it. This is a very first single on the label, which was a hit. It's come in a red bag, which apparently is very rare. It's supposed to only be released in the last 2 releases. All the other bags were this colour, which is more turquoisey than it appears on camera. But this actually is an earlier release, and I got a small collection, and in this collection there was only 1 Triumph record, and that was this record and this bag. So that may be a little bit false facts, but finding a red Triumph bag is not an easy thing to do. Anyway, a couple of just unusual things about this record. I bought it because, although it's a really cheesy A-side, I bought it because it's got Angela Jones. Now, I've mentioned recently Johnny Ferguson's version. I just love that sweet track. It's just a lovely track. So I had to have this. I kept this because I want to hear it. But underneath the song title, we'll always see in brackets the composer's name. But unusually here, we see the word in brackets composer and then the name. I've never seen that on a record before, I don't believe. In brackets, composer and the name. It's just an unusual thing to the geeks amongst us. But this is actually a Joe Meek production. His first 12 or 13 records on this label he produced. And you can hear it. This is very early, of course, but it has that touch of the Joe Meek echoey, slightly boomy mono sound. Not as full on as later, perhaps, but you can tell there's a Joe Meek sound here. And these records are cheap. Even though this is quite an obscure label, you can pick up most of the stuff because the songs aren't that great on the label. Most of them was sort of throwaway, but you can really get a sense of the Joe Meek sound on some of these. Now, there's one record which he didn't produce, he left at this point, and I forget the name of it, but it's an absolutely killer two-side. It was the best record on the label, and inevitably it goes for bigger money. I wish I could remember the name, but that is one I have to get. But there you are, an unusual disc. And if you ever see a Triumph record, pick it up, because more than likely you'll get a Joe Meek record in the dirt cheap. Okay, now a couple of other bits. I'll just mention this. I was going to mention that the other day I kind of had a sort of mini revelation that it wouldn't matter if I never made another video again. It just wouldn't matter. You know, I've sort of, for a long time, I've made a lot of videos and a lot of different style of content and all sorts of different stuff. But I just thought, you know what, if I never made another video again, it wouldn't matter. People would get over it. Madam Sinner stopped making videos again, and he's done. And I think, cool, I don't know if I could do that. But the other day, I just thought, you know what, if I never made another video again, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter particularly at all if I never watched another video again. You know, it's a funny thing. It's, for so long, it's felt like I really get a lot out of it and I enjoy it. But it can be hard work. A lot of commenting, especially, could take hours responding to comments. But that's partly my own fault for doing these sort of thinking aloud videos or whatever. But you know, there's enjoyment in that, and I really like I did the high thing earlier, the interaction thing is good. But I did think, would anyone really care if I never made another video? You know, you might get 2 or 3 people going, oh, where's Al? You know, oh, sorry, he's not making any more videos. But then you get on with your life and get on with it. And a lot of people, you know, I'd love to see Fred Big Star come back and make some videos. Please, Fred, if you're like that. Oh, you know, a Dean at the Grandma's Handbag, and, you know, Dan at Dots and Loops, and, you know, so many people who don't make videos like they used to do. But, you know, life goes on. You don't have to watch videos, you know, you don't have to do any of this. And it wouldn't matter, I don't think, to people, particularly if I did stop. I think, you know, some people would miss it for a little while and go, oh, Penge and Derek, you know, or whatever. Or hooray, no more Penge and Derek. I don't know, it's a funny feeling. It's just like, maybe, we'll see. We'll just see. I'll just see how I get on. Maybe people will just say, well, you just probably need a break out. You've done a lot, you know. And that's possibly right. It may just be that I just kickstart again and just go forward and, yeah, and maybe feel more for it. But it's a very strange feeling to think, oh, I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to do it. Just don't need to do it. Anyway, just briefly to end, more records because there's time is marching on here. I played this the other day. I'm going to be brief. Great new wave guitar-led album. Fantastic little songs. They're really fast, just great hooks. Fantastic all the way through. Really good. 1978, wonderful. This guy, Joe Callis, is the guitar player, and is he a mighty guitar player? Flipping heck, mate. What a guitar player. Just superb. But the interesting thing about him is he left that band, did a couple of singles with another small band, didn't go anywhere, and then joined the Human League. And after being on stage and playing all this electric guitar and feeling every note, you know how it is, you're just like, God, the intensity and the enjoyment of playing that and the sound of the electric guitar, you know. to joining the Human League and sitting behind the front man with those old mono synths. Completely different feel, completely different kind of style of music, completely different enjoyment in terms of the physicality and the emotional thing, I suppose, and just the way you play your instrument. You're just standing there with these mono synths, your twiddle here and there. An amazing shift in direction. He even co-wrote "Don't You Want Me, Baby," or "Don't You Want Me." So he did very well for himself, but it's an amazing shift. You know, Klaus Schulze, he did that shift as well, from drums with Asherah Temple to keyboards and synths. Maybe it's a synth thing. And it's just interesting to think, wow, what a shift that is, to be able to move from one instrument where you're really kind of feeling it, like the same with the drums, you're really interacting with the instrument, you're feeling it, to twiddling knobs and letting the sound take over. Really interesting. Anyway, I won't go into any more of that, but I just thought it's a fascinating career shift. I'm sure there are probably many people who have done that. And I'm sure at this point there'll be lots of you going, oh, don't forget so-and-so, don't forget so-and-so. Oh, and what about so-and-so? Okay. All right, that's it. This is the longest VC chat video I've done. And it's probably, most of it should be chopped up and thrown out. But anyway, if you got this far, thank you very much. If I had an imaginary Maslow hat, oh, I have, I take it off to you and throw it on the fire where it belongs. Okay. I'll see you all later. I'm sure I'll see you all later. I've got a really interesting classical record that I'll probably have to show you. But anyway, I'll see you all later.